The hall was loud, full of voices in many languages, some human, most not. Bright lights shone down on a wide stage where strange objects were displayed one by one. Marcus sat near the middle, his hands resting on the edge of his seat. He had been to many markets in his years as a trader, but the Galactic Auction Hall was different. Here, the rarest things in the galaxy were sold. Old relics, rare minerals, even ancient weapons from forgotten wars. He wasn't here for something fancy. He had come hoping to buy a small, valuable item he could sell back on Earth. The catalog had been strange pages full of numbers and codes. But one listing caught his eye. Lot 47. No picture, no description. Just 2 words. Rare acquisition. The auctioneer, a tall insectoid alien with 4 arms, moved quickly through the lots. Marcus waited, his heart beating a little faster as Lot 47 came closer. Around him, the crowd seemed to shift. More people were paying attention now. Whispers passed from seat to seat, but Marcus couldn't hear the words. Finally, the auctioneer's voice boomed. Lot 47. A one-of-a-kind prize, unmatched in beauty, unmatched in value. Bidding starts at 10,000 credits. Without thinking too much, Marcus raised his bidding paddle. Another bidder, a pale-skinned alien with glowing eyes, joined in. The price climbed fast. 12,000, 15, 18. Marcus had been in bidding wars before, but this was different. The other bidders stared at him with strange expressions, almost like they knew something. HDN single quotes T.20-5,000 credits. The alien dropped out. Another bidder, hidden in the shadows of the balcony, joined in. Marcus's jaw tightened. He wanted to win, not just for profit, but because the energy in the room made it feel like something important. The numbers climbed. 30,000, 35. The shadowed bidder paused. The auctioneer's voice cut through the silence. Sold. Lot 47 goes to the human trader in seat 216. Marcus leaned back, catching his breath. The applause was light, almost polite, but the whispers started. Again, he caught a few words this time. Poor fool, and wait until he sees. Before he could ask what that meant, the auctioneer nodded toward the side doors. Heavy locks clicked. 2 guards stepped forward, their armor black and polished. Between them was a tall cage, covered in a dark cloth. The metal rang softly with every step. Marcus frowned. He had expected a small box, maybe a crate. This was tall, almost his height, and it moved. The guards stopped in the center of the stage. With one sharp motion, they pulled away the cloth. The room seemed to grow silent. Inside the cage stood a girl, or at least, she looked like a girl. Her skin was pale silver, glowing faintly under the lights. Her hair fell in soft waves, shimmering, like liquid metal. Her eyes, wide, bright, and unblinking, locked onto Marcus the moment she saw him. She wore a simple garment, torn at the edges, and her wrists and ankles were bound with thin, glowing cuffs. Marcus's mouth went dry. "What is this?" he asked, his voice low. The auctioneer smiled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Lot 47, a rare acquisition from the outer colonies. Perfect condition. Yours to own. Marcus shook his head. "I thought I was bidding on an object, not a person." A few in the crowd laughed quietly. The auctioneer tilted his head. "She is property, according to the laws of her world. Legal for sale here. Your payment has been processed. She is yours." The girl didn't speak, but her eyes stayed on him. There was no fear in them, only something deeper, something harder to name. Marcus stepped forward. "I don't buy people." "You already have," the auctioneer replied smoothly. "And returning her is not an option. Refuse her, and you will lose your credits and gain enemies you do not want." The guards began to wheel the cage toward him. The girl's gaze never broke. Her hands were still bound, but she stood tall, her shoulders straight. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder as Marcus signed the last piece of paper to finalize the transfer. Somewhere in the back, he saw the shadowed bidder watching him, eyes glowing faintly, a smile that did not reach their eyes. When the cage reached him, the guards unlocked it and stepped back. The girl stepped out, chains clinking lightly. She stopped just in front of Marcus, her head tilted slightly as if studying him. "Come," the guard said gruffly. Marcus hesitated, then started walking toward the exit. The girl followed without a sound as they passed through the great hall's doors. Marcus felt every pair of eyes following them. Somewhere deep inside, a cold feeling settled in his chest. He had no idea what he had just walked into, but he knew one thing. Lot 47 was not what he expected. And whatever her story was going to change everything. The corridor outside the auction hall was quieter, but Marcus still felt the weight of eyes on him. The alien girl walked beside him, her steps soft and measured, the faint sound of her chains echoing off the metal walls. He glanced at her, wondering if she would speak, but she only kept her gaze forward. Her face was calm, almost unreadable. But there was something in her eyes. Not fear exactly, but something sharper, like she was watching and waiting. They reached the docking bay. Marcus's ship, a small freighter called the Starling, sat. In the far corner, the bay was busy with other traders loading their purchases. A few looked up as Marcus passed, their expressions shifting from curiosity to something else. Something almost like pity. When they reached the ramp, Marcus stopped. "Before we go on my ship," he said softly, "I need to know your name." She didn't answer at first. Then, in a voice so quiet he almost missed it, she said, "Lyra." The sound of it stayed with him. Short, simple, but it felt heavy, as if it carried a history she wasn't ready to tell. Inside the ship, Marcus led her to a small cabin. "You can stay here for now," he said, unlocking the cuffs on her wrists and ankles. The glowing restraints fell to the floor with a dull clink. She rubbed her wrist slowly, but didn't thank him. She simply sat down on the edge of the bed, her eyes following his every move. Marcus leaned against the wall. "Look, I didn't plan for this. I thought I was buying an artifact. I don't trade in people." Lyra's eyes softened. "But only a little. Then why didn't you refuse?" Her words caught him off guard. "'Cause they said if I did, I'd lose my credits and make enemies." She tilted her head slightly. "Then you value your safety more than my freedom." The sentence stung more than Marcus expected. He opened his mouth to reply, but the cum system beeped sharply. He stepped out into the corridor and answered. "Traitor." "Marcus," a deep voice said, smooth but cold. "You made quite the purchase today. That girl belongs to powerful people. Return her, and we will forget you were ever involved." Marcus frowned. "I paid for her legally. She's mine now." The voice gave a low, humorless laugh. "Ownership is a fragile thing in this galaxy. Human, we will come for her. And when we do, nothing will stop us." Calm went dead. Marcus stood there for a moment, the words sinking in. He had been in dangerous deals before, but this felt different. Whoever these people were, they weren't just interested in reclaiming property, they wanted control. Maybe even silence. When he returned to the cabin, Lyra was still sitting in the same place. "They'll come for you," she said quietly, as if she had heard the call through the walls. "And for you?" Marcus replied. Lyra looked down at her hands. "They already have me once. They won't risk letting me go again." He crossed his arms. "Who exactly are they?" Her eyes met his, and for a moment he saw something raw in them. Anger, maybe fear. "They are the coalition of Varys. They took me from my home as leverage." "Leverage for what?" Lyra hesitated, then shook her head. "The less you know, the safer you are." Marcus let out a dry laugh. Safe isn't really an option anymore. For the first time, a faint smile touched her lips. Then you should know, keeping me will make you their enemy. And they don't forgive enemies. Marcus studied her. She was calm, too calm for someone in her position. She had clearly been through worse than this. If I gave you the chance to leave, would you take it? Oh. She looked at him for a long moment before answering, not yet. That answer raised more questions than it answered. But before Marcus could ask them, the ship's proximity alarm blared. He ran to the cockpit. Outside, through the view screen, he saw two small vessels entering the bay. They weren't standard patrol craft. Their hulls were dark, almost black, with sharp angles that made them look more like weapons than ships. One of them sent a tight beam transmission. Marcus handed over the girl. You have one chance. Marcus tapped the controls, sealing the ramp. Guess they didn't waste time. Lyra stepped into the cockpit behind him. If you want to live, you'll take off now. He glanced at her, and if I want you to live. For a heartbeat, their eyes locked. Then Marcus powered up the Starling's engines. The ship lifted, turning toward the open bay doors. The black vessels moved instantly, trying to block the exit. Marcus pushed the throttle forward. The Starling shot ahead, scraping past one ship's wing. The other vessel gave chase, its weapons charging. Lyra strapped herself into the seat beside him. If they catch us, they won't kill you quickly, she said. Marcus tightened his grip on the controls. Then we'd better make sure they don't catch us at all. The Starling sped away from the station, stars stretching into lines as Marcus engaged the faster-than-light drive. The sudden quiet in the cockpit felt heavy after the chaos of their escape. Marcus leaned back in his seat, exhaling slowly. We bought ourselves some time, he said. Not much, but enough to think. Beside him, Lyra didn't look relieved. Her silver eyes stayed fixed on the stars outside, her posture straight, as if she expected danger to appear at any second. Marcus glanced at her. You're awfully calm for someone being hunted. I've been hunted for a long time, she replied softly. The way she said it made Marcus stop. He wanted to press for details, but something told him pushing too hard would only make her shut down. Instead, he asked, how did you end up in that auction cage? Lyra finally turned to look at him. It's a long story. I've got time, Marcus said. She studied him for a moment, as though weighing whether to trust him. Then she spoke. My name is Lyra Vera, daughter of Alren Vera, ruler of the Talari Dominion. My people have been at war with the Coalition of Varys for decades. I was taken 2 years ago during peace talks. Marcus frowned. So, you're a political prisoner? Lyra nodded. They kept me hidden, moving me from one place to another. I was never in one location long enough for my people to find me. The auction, that was new. They must have decided I was no longer useful for negotiations. Selling me was a way to profit and humiliate my family. Marcus whistled quietly. And I just happened to win the bid. Her gaze was steady. You didn't just happen to win. They wanted a human to take me. Someone they could threaten or manipulate easily. Marcus's jaw tightened. If that's true, they picked the wrong human. Lyra tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. We'll see. Before Marcus could respond, the ship's sensors beeped. A faint trace appeared on the long-range scanner. Another ship, trailing far behind. It wasn't closing in yet, but it was following their exact path. Marcus tapped the console. Looks like they're already tracking us. Lyra didn't flinch. Tia, they always track me, no matter where I go. Marcus turned to her. Then tell me why you didn't want to leave when I offered. If they're this determined, wouldn't you rather disappear somewhere far away? Her lips pressed into a thin line. Because running forever is not living. And because I have something they need, something they fear. What's that? Marcus asked. She hesitated, then reached into the folds of her torn garment. From a hidden pocket, she pulled out a small crystal sphere, glowing faintly blue. This, she said, holding it out. It's called the memory core. It contains evidence of war crimes committed by the Coalition. Proof that could turn the galaxy against them. Marcus stared at the sphere. And they don't know you have it. They suspect. That's why they can't simply kill me. They need to make sure they get it back. Marcus rubbed his face. So I didn't just buy a girl. I bought the most wanted fugitive in the sector. Her silver eyes didn't waver. You didn't buy me. You gave me a chance. The word surprised him, but before he could reply, the scanner beeped again. The trailing ship had accelerated. It was closing in fast. Marcus flicked switches, diverting. More power to the engines. Hold on. The Starling surged forward, but the pursuer matched their speed. They'll try to disable our engines, Lyra said calmly. It's what I would do. You seem to know their tactics, Marcus muttered. I've seen them too many times, she said. They'll aim for the rear vents. If they hit them, the ship will overheat. Marcus's hands moved quickly. Over the controls, then we make sure they don't get the chance. He veered sharply to the left, the star spinning across the viewport. The pursuing ship adjusted instantly. Marcus cursed under his breath. Can you operate weapons? He asked. Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile. Better than most humans. Marcus didn't have time to doubt her. He activated the secondary seat controls. Right, princess, let's see what you can do. She slipped into the gunnery. Console-like, she'd been born there. Her fingers danced over the controls, targeting the pursuer's weapon systems. The first shot from the Starling's cannons lit up the darkness, a clean hit to the enemy's shield. Marcus grinned, despite himself. Not bad. Lyra didn't look away from the display. I told you. Another blast, and the pursuer's shields flickered. But then, a return shot grazed the Starling's rear hull. Warning lights flashed on the console. They're trying to cripple us, Marcus said. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Not today. Her next shot hit the enemy's vent system directly. Steam and debris exploded from the other ship's hull. It veered off course, drifting helplessly. The cockpit fell silent except for the hum of the engines. Marcus exhaled. Remind me never to play cards against you. Lyra leaned back, the faint smile still on her lips. I told you, I'm better than most humans. Marcus glanced at her, something shifting in his thoughts. She wasn't just some fragile prisoner. She was dangerous, capable, and maybe the only person who truly understood the storm. They were now in, and he had a feeling this was only the beginning. The Starling drifted quietly through the darkness, its engines running low to avoid detection. Marcus sat in the cockpit, eyes fixed on the scanner. The damaged ship they had escaped from was still far behind, but Marcus knew better than to relax. The coalition of Varys wouldn't stop. They would send more, bigger, faster. Lyra stood near the viewport, her arms crossed as she watched the endless stretch of stars. She hadn't said much since the fight. She didn't need to. Marcus could feel the tension in the air. They'll send a hunter fleet next, she said finally. Marcus glanced at her. How many ships are we talking about? Enough to make sure we don't leave this sector. Alive, he sighed and tapped the console. Then we need a plan before they find us again. Lyra walked over, leaning on the back of his chair. You can't outrun them forever, not with this ship. I'm aware, Marcus said. But I'm not about to hand you over either. Her silver eyes studied him for a moment. Most people would have by now. I'm not most people, Marcus replied, his tone flat. Before Lyra could answer, the scanner beeped sharply. Multiple blips appeared at the edge of the display, moving fast. Marcus swore under his breath. "They've already found us," he said. Lyra's gaze sharpened, and they're not alone. The scanner confirmed it. 5 ships, all coalition design, closing in from different angles. They were setting up a net to trap the Starling. "They're trying to box us in," Marcus said, adjusting the course. "If we break through before they close the gap, we might make it." "And if we don't?" Lyra asked. Marcus gave her a brief, grim smile. "Then we improvise." He pushed the throttle forward. The Starling roared to life, surging toward a narrow gap between 2 incoming ships. But the coalition wasn't slow. The lead vessel moved to block their escape route. Lyra stepped to the weapons console without needing to be told. "If you get me close enough, I can cripple their engines. That's going to take us right into their firing range," Marcus warned. "Then you'd better fly well," she said. Already powering up the cannons, Marcus dove the Starling under the lead ship's hull, weaving through a hail of plasma fire. The ship's alarms wailed as shots grazed their shields. Lyra's aim was quick to precise blasts to the enemy's rear thrusters sent the ship spiraling out of position, opening a path. "That's one," she said, but the other 4 ships were closing fast. The net was tightening. Marcus's eyes darted over the controls. "There's a dense asteroid field ahead. If we get inside, we might shake them." "They'll follow," Lyra said. "Not if we make it too dangerous for them," Marcus replied. He pushed the ship harder. The asteroids loomed ahead, massive, jagged rocks spinning slowly in the void. The Starling plunged inside, the hull shuddering as Marcus twisted through narrow gaps. The coalition ships followed, firing whenever they had a clear shot. The blasts lit up the shadows between the rocks. Marcus skimmed dangerously close to one spinning boulder, forcing the nearest pursuer to swerve and collide with another asteroid. The explosion shook the field. "That's 2, Lyra said calmly. Marcus grinned despite the danger. "You keep score." "Always," she said, firing again. Her next shot clipped a second ship's stabilizers, sending it spinning into a jagged rock. The hull broke apart instantly. "That's 3. The remaining 2 ships pressed harder, their firepower increasing. One blast hit the Starling's shields directly, making the cockpit flash red. Marcus's hands tightened on the controls. "Shields at 30%. We can't take many more." Lyra's voice stayed steady. "Then we finish this now." Marcus spotted a cluster of asteroids ahead, spinning in a tight formation. If he timed it right, he could lure the pursuers into the path of the largest rock. "Hang on," he said, diving toward the formation. The coalition ships followed closely. At the last second, Marcus pulled the Starling up and around the largest asteroid. The enemy pilots didn't have time to react. The massive rock slammed into one ship, tearing it apart. "That's 4, Lyra said, her lips curving in 2. The faintest smile. The last ship pulled back, staying at the edge of the field. Marcus and Lyra exchanged a glance. "They're calling for reinforcements," she said. "Which means we've got minutes at best." Marcus replied. He guided the Starling out of the asteroid field and into open space. The nav computer beeped. As he set a course for a nearby uncharted system, Lyra settled into the seat beside him. "If you keep this up, you're going to make them desperate. And desperate enemies are dangerous." Marcus smirked. "Good. Maybe they'll start making mistakes." But deep down, he knew the truth. The coalition was relentless. And every victory they won only made the next fight harder. And he had the feeling the next fight was coming sooner than either of them wanted. The Starling coasted silently through the dim glow of a small red star, its engines on low power to avoid detection. The fight in the asteroid field had bought them time, but Marcus knew it wouldn't last. The coalition of Varus was like a shadow. No matter how far you ran, it always found you. Marcus sat in the cockpit, staring at the star chart on the screen. There were few options ahead. Most nearby systems were either coalition-controlled or heavily monitored trade routes. Only one route was open, toward the neutral zone, a place where law was thin and survival depended on the strength of your allies. Lyra stepped into the cockpit, silent as always. She stood behind his chair for a moment before speaking. "You're thinking about leaving me there?" Marcus didn't look back. "The neutral zone's not safe, but it's far enough from coalition space to slow them down. You could disappear." There, her voice was calm but firm. "Disappear into the hands of slavers, bounty hunters, or worse. You know what would happen to someone like me out there?" Marcus rubbed his jaw. "I'm running a small ship with thin shields, minimal weapons, and barely enough credits for fuel. I can't protect you forever. You can protect me now," she said. That sentence hung in the air, heavier than it should have been. Marcus turned his chair to face her. "I'm not a hero, Lyra. I'm just a traitor who made a bad bid." Her silver eyes met his without blinking. "And yet you've risked your life for me twice already. If you meant to abandon me, you would have done it the moment we left the auction hall." Marcus hated that she was right. She stepped closer. "The memory core has to reach my people. If it doesn't, the coalition will continue their war, unchallenged. Millions will die. They will erase entire colonies from the stars. You have a ship. You have freedom. You can do something." Marcus leaned back, feeling the weight of her words pressing against the walls of his mind. He had carried dangerous cargo before, smuggled goods through blockades, and made shady deals in shadowed ports. But this was different. This wasn't about profit. It was about choosing to step into a war that wasn't his. The CUM system crackled suddenly. Marcus flipped it on, expecting static, but a voice came through. "Traitor Marcus," the voice said, cold and deliberate. "We know you have her. This is your last warning. Dock at the following coordinates. Surrender the girl, and you will be paid twice what you spent. Refuse, and there will be no safe place left in the galaxy for you." The coordinates flashed. On his screen, they were close, too close. Marcus looked at Lyra. "If I give you up, you'll be alive. At least for a while. They'll keep you until they get what they want. And when they do," she said quietly, "they'll kill me. Or worse." He stared at the blinking coordinates. Twice the money. A clean escape. His life back. It would be the easy choice, the smart choice. But Marcus had never been very good at making the smart choice. He shut the CUM off. Lyra's eyes searched his face. "What are you going to do?" Marcus took a deep breath. "I'm going to see this through. I'm going to get you to your people. But you need to understand something. The moment we make that choice, we're enemies of the coalition. And once that happens, there's no turning back." A flicker of emotion crossed Lyra's face, relief, gratitude, and something else Marcus couldn't quite name. "Then I'll stand with you," she said simply. Marcus turned back to the console. "Then let's move before they get too close." Plotted a course away from the coordinates, deeper into the outer systems. The Starling's engines roared to life, carrying them into the dark. Lyra stayed beside him, her presence steady. Her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. "You know, Marcus," said after a long silence, "this is the part where the smart man turns around and takes the deal." Lyra's lips curved faintly. "Then I'm glad you're not a smart man." Marcus chuckled softly, shaking his head. "You're going to get me killed." Her voice was almost a whisper. "Not if I can help it." Somewhere far behind them. The coalition fleet would already be moving. For now, for this one moment, Marcus felt certain of his choice. He wasn't running away anymore. He was running towards something, even if it meant war. The Starling cut through the blackness of space, its engines burning harder than they had in years. Marcus had pushed the ship to its limits for 2 straight days, avoiding patrol routes, skipping fuel stops and changing direction every few hours. But no matter what he did, the coalition kept closing in. The long-range scanner lit up with red blips, too many. Marcus counted at least 6 ships, moving in a tight formation, closing the gap from behind. This wasn't a patrol. This was a hunter pack. "They've brought a command ship," Lyra said quietly from the co-pilot's seat. Her eyes were locked. On the scanner, "They're done playing games." Marcus didn't argue. He could see it too. The largest blip in the center of the formation pulsed like a predator's heartbeat. That ship would have stronger shields, heavier weapons, and a crew trained for one purpose: capture or kill. "They'll try to disable us first," Lyra continued. "If they can take us alive, they will. But if they can't," Marcus finished. "For her, they'll make sure there's nothing left to find." The comm crackled to life. "Traitor Marcus," a deep voice said, calm and certain. "You've run long enough. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. This is your final warning." Marcus switched the comm off without replying. "You're not going to surrender." Lyra said. "Not today," Marcus replied. She glanced at him. "Then we'll have to hit them where they don't expect it." Marcus smirked faintly. "You've got something in mind." Lyra pointed to the navigation display. "That debris. Field ahead, old wrecks from the last war. Too dangerous for large ships to navigate quickly. We can draw them in, their formation will break. That's when we strike." Marcus nodded. "All right, Princess, let's make some history." He pushed the throttle forward. The Starling roared into the debris field, weaving between the broken skeletons of ancient warships. Massive hulls drifted silently, their twisted metal catching the faint glow of distant starlight. Behind them, the coalition ships followed, forced to split apart. To avoid collisions, the pack's tight formation broke, and Marcus saw his chance. "Ready on weapons?" he asked. Lyra's hands flew across the controls. "Ready?" The first coalition ship entered range. Lyra fired 2 quick blasts, tearing through its forward shields. The enemy ship spun wildly, crashing into the remains of a battleship. A flash of light marked its end. "That's one," Lyra said, her voice steady. Marcus banked hard left, skimming so close to a wreck's jagged hull that the Starling's shields hissed in protest. Another coalition vessel tried to follow, but clipped a wing on the wreckage, sending it spinning out of control. "That's 2," Marcus said with a grin. But the command ship wasn't slowing. Its heavy cannons lit up the darkness, firing blasts that shook the Starling to its core. Warning alarms screamed across the cockpit. "Shields down to 40%. Marcus shouted. "We can't take another direct hit," Lyra replied, her fingers moving fast. She targeted the lead escort ship, hitting its engine core day dawn. The explosion was bright enough to light the entire debris field. "That's 3, she said. The command ship closed in. Its shadow loomed across the Starling as if the entire sky had darkened. "They're going to try to ram us," Marcus shouted. "Then we go under," Lyra said quickly. Marcus dove the Starling beneath the drifting carcass of an old carrier. The massive wreckage blocked the command ship's guns for a few precious seconds. Lyra used the time to lock onto the ship's ventral weapon array. Her shots landed true explosions, rippled across the underside of the massive vessel. The command ship staggered, its cannons going silent for the first time. But they weren't beaten yet. Smaller coalition fighters poured into the debris field from its launch bays, swarming like angry insects. "Too many," Marcus muttered. "Then we go for the heart," Lyra said, her voice fierce now. "The command ship's bridge is exposed on the upper spine. Get me close enough, and I can end this." Marcus didn't question her. He swung the Starling up and over the wreckage, charging straight toward the massive vessel. The fighters chased them, peppering their shields with fire. But Marcus kept the course steady. Almost in range, Lyra said. The command ship loomed larger, its bridge glowing faintly in the dark. "Now?" Lyra shouted. Marcus rolled the Starling to give her a clear shot. Lyra's cannons fired in rapid bursts, each shot slamming into the bridge's shields. The last shot punched through, and a bright explosion burst from the command tower. The massive ship shuddered, listing to one side as systems failed across its hull. The swarm of fighters broke formation, scattering in panic. Marcus pulled the Starling away from the wreck, heart pounding. The debris field fell silent again, except for the faint hum of their own engines. "They won't chase us now," Lyra said. "For how long?" Marcus asked. She gave him a small, tired smile. "Long enough." Marcus glanced at her, then at the fading light of the dying command ship. He knew this wasn't the end. The coalition would come back, stronger than ever. But for tonight, they had survived. The Starling drifted in the quiet of deep space, far from trade routes, far from the smoke of battle. The hum of the engines was soft now, steady. It's no longer pushed to their limits. Marcus sat in the pilot's chair, eyes on the distant stars. Now, the debris field was behind them, and with the coalition command ship destroyed, the chase had finally stopped, at least for now. But Marcus knew the silence wouldn't last forever. Lyra stood near the viewport, her silver eyes reflecting the faint glow of starlight. She had been quiet since their escape, her gaze fixed on the infinite black ahead. Marcus broke the silence. "Coordinates." Lyra looked down at a small device in her hand, a beacon shaped like a teardrop of crystal. "I've been saving this for the right moment," she said. "When activated, it will call one of my people ships to this location." Marcus nodded slowly. "And once they arrive, they'll take me home," she said. There was a long pause between them. Marcus leaned back in his chair. "You're sure you can trust them? No chance they'll use that memory core against you?" Lyra's lips curved slightly. "If I can't trust them, then there's no one left in the galaxy I can." She walked to the center of the cockpit and placed the beacon on the console. Her hand hovered over it for a moment before pressing it. The crystal glowed faint blue, sending out a silent signal into the dark. "They'll come quickly," she said. "We won't have long." Marcus exhaled. "Then we should talk while we can." Lyra tilted her head. "About what?" "About what happens next," Marcus said. "Because once you leave, you're back in your world, and I'm back in mine." Lyra studied him for a long moment. "My world isn't safe. Neither is yours." "I know," Marcus said. "But at least yours has people who care about you." Lyra's expression softened, just slightly. "And yours?" Marcus gave a half smile. "Just me and my ship." She stepped closer, her gaze steady. "Then maybe that's why I don't want to say goodbye?" Before Marcus could reply, the ship's proximity alarm beeped. 2 blips appeared on the scanner, approaching fast. "They're here," Lyra said. Moments later, a sleek silver vessel emerged from the darkness, its hull gleaming like liquid light. It was unlike any ship Marcus had seen, graceful and sharp, built for both speed and strength. The vessel slowed, hovering beside the Starling like a predator that had no need to chase its prey. A calm voice came over the comm. "Lyra Vera, this is Captain Saren of the Talari Guard. We've received your signal. Are you safe?" Lyra pressed the come button. "I am safe, thanks to the one who found me." She glanced at Marcus. "And who kept me alive." There was a pause on the other end. "Understood. Prepare for transfer." Lyra turned to Marcus. "This is where we part ways." He forced a smile. Guess you'll have a whole army watching your back now. Lyra hesitated, then stepped closer. I meant what I said. You didn't buy me, Marcus. You gave me a chance. And I will not forget that. She reached into her garment and pulled out the glowing memory core. This belongs to my people, but there's something else I can give you. From another hidden pocket, she took out a small metallic pendant, shaped like a wing. She placed it in his hand. If you ever need me for anything, show this to any Talari ship. They'll know you are under my protection. Marcus looked at the pendant, then at her. That's a big promise. Lyra's silver eyes met his. So was yours. The airlock cycle began, the sound of metal shifting between the two ships. Lyra stepped into the doorway, pausing only once to glance back at him. Goodbye, Marcus, she said softly. He gave her a crooked grin. Stay alive, princess. The doors closed, and she was gone. Marcus sat alone in the cockpit, watching. As the Talari ship pulled away, its engines flared bright, then vanished into the darkness with a burst of light. The space around him felt emptier than before. He placed the pendant on the console, letting it catch the starlight. His hand lingered there for a moment before. He leaned back in his chair. Somewhere out there, the coalition of Varys would regroup. Somewhere out there, Lyra would be standing in front of her people, holding the memory core, ready to expose the truth. And somewhere out there, their paths might cross again. Marcus powered up the Starling's engines. The stars shifted as the ship turned toward the unknown. He wasn't running anymore. He was moving forward, toward whatever came next. And if trouble found him again, he knew there was at least one corner of the galaxy where someone would answer his call.